Let it never be said that Vader enjoyed wearing any piece of his armor. The black suit was heavy, clunky, cumbersome, and very painful. Before on the channel, we've explored various explanations of the functions of Vader's suit, from the enhancements within the helmet to each and every pocket and button on the belt. And in all of that, the Dark Chosen One thoroughly despised each and every piece for all of the discomfort and agony that it caused him, though he would eventually come to make peace with the armor and treat it as a part of him by understanding that this pain gave him power. Because of the constant irritation that the suit caused, Vader was able to hone his abilities, focus his rage around him. Not to mention another upside was the terror that his armor caused and inflicted on those that surrounded him. He was large, mysterious, and imposing. His booming voice and even the sound of his breathing struck fear into the hearts of rebels and Imperials alike. While Vader enjoyed these many benefits, there was one crucial part of the suit that he absolutely hated: his mask. The iconic helmet of Vader would remain the object of his hatred until the moment that Luke would remove it. It also happened to be the very thing that Sidious used to disrespect him, and was a massive insult to the previous Chosen One. So what was the reason that Vader hated his helmet? How did Sidious design it as an insult? And why did he never change it? Well, today, let's open up Holocron and discuss why. The helmet was possibly the most important part of his entire armor, as it held several of the most vital parts of keeping him alive and functioning. The breathing apparatus was connected to an air pump in the helmet, which supplied his lungs with oxygen. This is what produced the signature rasp of his breathing when pushed through the ventilator. An implanted enunciator linked to an electronic voice processor enabled Vader's scorched vocal cords to produce speech, and a small control panel near the breathing gate allowed Vader to control certain functions in his suit by his own tongue. The helmet also had a heads-up display, which gave Vader readouts on environmental details, as well as information on the atmosphere. He also had a comm link implanted which allowed him to contact anyone he needed to within range. Speaking of the atmosphere, the helmet and suit was vacuum sealed and pressurized, allowing Vader to survive a short while in the vacuum of space. With all of these upsides though, one would think that Vader would at least approve of the benefits of his helmet. Unfortunately, all the good that it provided was mitigated by its shortcomings. Vader noted that the audio sensors were extremely poor. Sometimes it was difficult to hear what people were saying when they were right next to him, as it sounded like they were far away, or they were speaking through water. He also complained that at times, the audio wouldn't distinguish between different frequencies, causing all of the sound around him to register at the same volume. This caused painful spikes in frequency that hurt his already damaged ears. And if that wasn't enough, needles from the mask stuck into his face when the suit was sealed, allowing it to transmit neurological information from Vader's brain into the HUD of his suit. But interestingly enough, these physical pains were only the smallest part of why Vader despised his helmet. In actuality, his ire was directed at its very design. When making the armor, Sidious had crafted it with inspiration from the ancient Sith in his mind, and he frequently used old Sith imagery on things he owned, from using their burial urns for decoration, to even having their symbols woven into the fabric of one of his cloaks. His admiration for the ancient Sith didn't stop at just their deeds and their feats in the Force. Palpatine would make frequent comments about their archaic weaponry and incorporate various homages to their culture into the Empire. One of the finest respects of the ancient Sith was the design of Vader's armor, which was crafted to resemble that of the ancient Sith armor and the war droids, specifically the Sith Elite Warbot. This droid was first seen around 5000 BBY, used by Naga Sadow during the Great Hyperspace War. They were terrors on the battlefield, hulking brutes equipped with blasters, electric batons, and often alchemically imbued Force swords. These could hit against lightsabers and deflect blaster bolts. It was said that one of these droids was worth a room full of the best soldiers, which was why high-ranking Sith kept few of them nearby, using them predominantly as security guards. This was what they were most often used for around the time of the reconstituted Sith. But the Warbots also saw action when used by the Nadists during the Freedom Nad Wars. It was during this time that another inspiration for Vader's armor came about, and that was the Sith Lord Warb Null. We made a full video detailing everything there is to know about this mysterious warrior, but the thing to know here is that the armor was cursed using Sith magic, and built to be the most powerful armor in existence. It was his armor, as well as the Warbots, that served as a design philosophy for what would ultimately become Lord Vader's suit. However, Vader hated this fact. He didn't like that his helmet was modeled after droids, and he didn't want to be mistaken for a droid, which actually happened once. He understood that he was more machine now than man, but that didn't mean that he accepted his role as a soulless robot like Grievous. In his studies of the Sith, Vader would undoubtedly know the meaning behind the uses of the warbots. They were servants. While on the surface, Sidious was trying to create an homage to the ancient Sith and make Vader far more terrifying, using the skull-like faceplate. Vader knew the truth of this insult. This was a symbol of subservience, of being less. This was Sidious' secret way of insulting Vader and letting him know that he was a simple tool, a meaningless droid, once more a slave to someone else's will, a servant. The idea was hammered home when you also look at the forging of Warb Null's armor. This is something that Vader likely knew about. The man who became Warb Null was forced to wear the armor after being cursed by a Sith spirit, which we are fairly certain was freed in Nad. This caused the metal of the armor to graft onto the man's flesh, warping his mind and turning him into a slave of the spirit's will. The meaning behind the story and the parallel of Vader's own armor is not lost on him. Sidious was the man who liked to torture people in psychological ways. He had immense pleasure in insulting beings around him in ways that only he knew about, ways that were very personal. For example, only 5 Jedi actually saw Sidious's lightsaber, and at the time that they saw it, they weren't even paying attention to its design so much as they were trying to stay alive. Yet, Sidious made his lightsaber to insult the Jedi, even if the Jedi never noticed it. Things like this, and putting the statues of the Duarte in his office, along with the Sith incense burner for decoration. These were all of Sidious's ways of insulting the Jedi, even if he was the only one who got the joke. The point was to forge Vader's armor under the pretense of making it more respective to the ancient Sith, only for it to be a symbol of Vader's ultimate servitude. This is all very much in line with Palpatine's character. Unfortunately, it's also in character for Vader to accept this, even though he hated it. He would never bother to change his helmet because from that moment he woke up on the operating table. It was his new face. Anakin was dead, and he was Vader now. This was the face of Vader who rose from the fire like a dark phoenix. His wife and children were dead as far as he knew. His friends had betrayed him, and he lost even his lightsaber. The only thing he had left was Sidious, the shadow in the corner of the room. In this cold and icy reality, Vader understood that the dark side was his only companion, and if that meant he was now a servant of the Sith, then so be it. One might think that Vader would have tried to throw off the shackles of his servitude, but as we know thanks to Return of the Jedi, as well as the various Star Wars comics, Vader knows he is a slave to Palpatine and the dark side. Vader feels as if he is bound to the dark side, that this is the ultimate cruelty of all of his consequences, allowing Padme to die, allowing Anakin to die, and that is why he never changed his helmet's design. But anyway, my friends, this was the deeply insulting method in which Lord Vader's helmet and armor was constructed, and why he hated it. But what do you think of this? What do you think of Vader's own thoughts towards his mask, his new face? And did you ever pick up on these ancient Sith inspirations? As always, my friends, thank you so much for visiting the channel today, and may the Force be with you.